This old Bible, printed in 1775, shows us something surprising. We once followed a calendar consisting of 13 months. What's even stranger is that the first month in this calendar was March. If you flip through the book to the end, you can see a list of all 13 months, as well as the fact that Sunday is listed as the first day of the week, Monday as the second, and Saturday or Shabbat as the seventh and last. Could it be that there is something more hidden beneath the surface of everything we have been taught? That is what we will try to uncover today. When we first discovered this version of the Bible, we felt like we had found a missing piece of the puzzle that we had never even suspected existed. As we reflected on this discovery, new questions began to arise. What if the holidays we are accustomed to celebrating are actually rooted in ancient traditions and should follow a completely different rhythm? A rhythm dictated by a forgotten and hidden calendar. Take Christmas, for example. It is often said that this holiday is merely a reinterpretation of more ancient pagan celebrations. But if the system of measuring time were different, would today's holidays retain their meaning? Would they coincide with the most important celestial events, such as the winter solstice or equinox, with which we associate them today? And if our holidays are influenced by the structure of the calendar, what about our daily lives? Is it possible that a forgotten time system holds the key to lost harmony, to something deeper, more attuned to the natural cycles of the earth and the universe? As if peeling back layers of history, we may uncover forgotten ways of interacting with time that could shed light on a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. Perhaps this is the key to reconnecting not only with nature, but with existence itself? This idea is both exhilarating and unsettling. It leaves us with the feeling that there is much more beneath the familiar surface than we have ever been taught. From an astrological point of view, the connection between the days of the week and the heavenly bodies was the cornerstone of many ancient systems. It was believed that each day was ruled by a specific planet or celestial being whose energy influenced human behavior, destiny, and the natural world. This system is the basis of astrology and was integrated into many cultures long before the modern calendar took its familiar form. But what if the current calendar and 7-day week do not correspond to the original cosmic order? What if the connection between the planets and the days they rule has been disrupted, and we no longer live in harmony with the celestial rhythm? We may no longer be in harmony with the cosmic rhythm. Let's take Sunday, the day dedicated to the sun, as an example. From an astrological point of view, the sun symbolizes vitality, personality, and self-expression. In many ancient cultures, Sunday was a time to honor the energy that nourishes all life on earth. Historically, this day was marked by rest, rituals dedicated to the power of the sun, and celebrations that filled life with meaning. However, with the spread of Christianity, especially during the reign of Emperor Constantine, this emphasis was changed. It was Constantine who decreed that Sunday would become the official day of worship, linking it to Christian beliefs, particularly the resurrection of Jesus Christ, a figure often associated with light, salvation, and eternal life. However, many researchers believe that this was not only a spiritual, but also a political decision aimed at consolidating the empire. It sought to unite the pagan tradition of sun worship with the new religious order. If celestial bodies really influence the days of the week, what happens when we lose touch with them? Astrology asserts that each celestial body has a unique energy capable of influencing human life. Aligning daily activities with these planetary influences can lead to a more conscious and harmonious existence. But if our current calendar no longer reflects the true natural order, perhaps we have lost touch with the deep rhythm of the universe, the very rhythm that guided our ancestors and formed the basis of the spiritual practices of entire civilizations. Interestingly, even in the Bible, there are references to cycles, seasons, and the importance of God-given time. In Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, it says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. But if the calendar we live by no longer corresponds to the true rhythms of creation, how can we live in harmony with divine time? Theories about the forgotten 13-month biblical calendar suggest that it was closely linked to celestial movements and natural cycles. Such a system could allow people to exist in harmony with the earth and the cosmos. The lunar calendar also evokes associations with the phases of the moon, which are traditionally associated with intuition, feminine energy, and spiritual growth. What if we could reset our calendar in accordance with these natural rhythms? Some ancient traditions suggest that such a reset could restore the lost connection with the divine. This raises a fundamental question: who changed the structure of our week and thereby rewrote the fabric of our perception of time? This version of the Bible itself demonstrates that reality is not fixed at all. Consider, for example, the fusion of pagan and Christian traditions. Many Christians around the world celebrate Christmas on December 25th without even thinking about its multi-layered history. In Russia, Christmas is celebrated on the night of January 6th to 7th, a date that corresponds to December 25th according to the old Julian calendar. The Russian Orthodox Church still adheres to this calendar. On this day, the 40-day Christmas fast ends, and the 12 days of Christmas begin, continuing until Epiphany. In many other countries, the holiday is celebrated from December 24th to 25th. In the early centuries of Christianity, this date was chosen not because it corresponded to the actual birthday of Jesus, but because it coincided with existing pagan celebrations, such as the Roman Saturnalia or the Germanic Yule. The Church strategically placed the Christmas holiday close to these pagan dates to facilitate the conversion of new believers. As for the actual date of Christ's birth, we have very little reliable historical data at our disposal. Neither the day, nor the month, nor even the year can be determined with certainty. Moving Christmas to December 25th was a conscious step, a way to contrast the Christian faith with sun worship and keep the flock from participating in pagan rituals. Think about it. The story of the birth of light, hope, and salvation was superimposed on centuries-old rituals associated with the winter solstice, the time when the sun returns. This is not just a coincidence. It is a deliberate shaping of our reality, a reinterpretation of time as a tool for managing perception. The calendar and holidays, like the entire belief system we are accustomed to, were largely shaped not by a desire for accuracy, but by the need to create a common narrative. It is surprising to realize that perceptions of reality in the past could be easily adapted to a new ideology, changed, and introduced as truth, which was then accepted by millions of people. Thus, the original meaning of the winter solstice, the moment when light begins to return and the days become longer, was transformed into a celebration of the birth of Christ. However, as both historical sources and analysis of biblical texts show, Jesus was probably not born in December. The Bible does not specify the exact date of his birth. Some scholars, based on references to shepherds who were tending their flocks outdoors at the time of his birth, suggest that this took place in the spring, when the weather was milder, rather than in winter. The choice of December 25th as the date of Jesus' birth was more symbolic than historically accurate. It was a political and cultural decision that allowed the Christian holiday to be combined with long-standing pagan celebrations. Linking the idea of Christ's birth to the winter solstice, the moment of the return of light, was a convenient way to introduce new spiritual ideas into a society that was already accustomed to celebrating significant events during this period. This symbiosis of ancient and new beliefs shows that what we perceive as reality can not only be interpreted but also deliberately changed. Take, for example, the Christmas tree, a symbol that seems to us to be an integral part of the holiday. However, its origins are not Christian at all. Ancient pagan rituals included decorating trees, often with balls or other symbols of fertility and renewal. These rituals were part of the worship of deities, such as Tammuz and Nimrod. Interestingly, even biblical texts contain warnings against such customs. Despite this, the practice was reinterpreted and integrated into a new religious system. This is another example of how reality can be bent to fit a convenient and necessary structure. And society, without asking unnecessary questions, accepts it. Thus, many things that we consider immutable, holidays, the structure of the calendar, the order of the days of the week, are in fact the result of centuries of adaptation, political decisions, and cultural compromises. They are not fixed truths, but products of human intention. If reality can be so easily changed, who can claim that it is not continuing to take shape right now? This idea goes far beyond religious traditions. Look at how society is structured today. Our ideas about success, time, good and evil, all of these are constructs. They were formed not so much on the basis of objective truth as on the basis of consensus, often dictated by authority or cultural norms. Social programming plays a huge role in what we consider possible. From birth, we are taught to conform to established structures, from school schedules to work weeks, from holidays to life goals. We rarely think about where all this came from, and why. Perhaps it is time to ask these questions. We celebrate the holidays our parents celebrated. We follow the traditions they observed. We accept the social norms that were natural to them. But what if we stopped for a moment and questioned these traditions? What if we stopped taking them for granted and started exploring where they came from, what they really mean, and why we continue to follow them? This approach inevitably leads to the realization that reality is not a fixed and rigid structure. It is flexible and malleable. It is not an absolute, but a construct based on the consent of the majority. And this is where cracks begin to appear in the seemingly monolithic system of the world in which we live. If we are capable of changing traditions, rethinking norms, and questioning even what was once considered unshakable, then we also have the power to recreate our own reality. This idea is far from abstract. It is deeply practical. Every day, we participate in building the world in which we live. Consciously or not, we shape the fabric of our surrounding reality with our thoughts, actions, and collective agreement with certain truths. Take the calendar, for example. We go through life without giving much thought to why a year consists of 12 months, why a week has 7 days, and why January is considered the beginning of the year. Most of us simply follow the Gregorian calendar as if it were the only one possible. But it is only one of many systems, and it has not always been the dominant one. In ancient civilizations, there were completely different ways of measuring time. The ancient Egyptians, Babylonians, and Mayans, each of these cultures created its own rhythm of life, often closely linked to lunar and solar cycles. The Bible, for example, also mentions a structure of the year beginning in March rather than January. This makes the calendar closer to the natural rhythms of the earth, sun, and moon, in contrast to the modern, conventional order to which we have all been accustomed. A particularly interesting example is the old Russian calendar, based on a combination of lunar and solar cycles. In this system, months began with the new moon and lasted, as a rule, 29 or 30 days. On average, the year was about 354 days long, which corresponded to 12 lunar months. In order to synchronize the calendar with the solar year, approximately 365 days, in some cases additional days, or even whole months were added, a kind of leap year adjustment. Each month had its own name, its own symbolism, and was closely linked to natural cycles, agricultural work, and the times of sowing and harvesting. Holidays and rituals were also timed to coincide with natural events, the spring equinox, the summer solstice, and harvest periods. Thus, the calendar did not simply count the days, it guided people in the rhythm of nature, reflecting their connection with the earth and the cosmos. This deep, organic connection was seriously disrupted in the 15th to 17th centuries, when Russia, under the influence of church reforms, in particular the reforms of Patriarch Nikon, gradually began to transition to the Gregorian calendar system. This led to the loss of a significant part of the ancient calendar consciousness. However, elements of the old system persisted for a long time in folk culture, rituals, and holidays, especially in villages. One of the fundamental differences between the old Russian calendar and the modern one was that the new year began in March, with the awakening of nature, rather than in the middle of winter, as is customary today. This corresponded to the logic of life, rather than political or ecclesiastical establishments. Starting the year at the moment when the earth comes to life, when the sap begins to flow, when the sun regains its strength, this was natural and symbolically rich. Realizing all this, we begin to understand that the structure of time to which we submit is not the only one possible. It is a construct that can be revised. The question is, do we want to do so? Are we ready to look at the root of the familiar norms that seem eternal to us? Perhaps now is the time to begin this revision. Not to destroy everything old, but to restore the lost harmony, with ourselves, with nature, with the cosmos. After all, only a conscious perception of time gives us the chance to live not by the clock, but by the rhythms that were truly conceived from above. March is not just any month. In ancient times, it symbolized the awakening of nature and the beginning of spring, when the earth came to life and people began a new agricultural cycle. The choice of March as the beginning of the year was not accidental. It was logical, natural, based on the rhythms of nature itself. With the arrival of March, rituals were held to bid farewell to winter and celebrate the arrival of warmth and light. It was the beginning of life, not the cold January calm. Different cultures and eras define the calendar in different ways, and this in itself is an important clue. Even such a seemingly fixed concept as time can be flexible and conditional. Our modern calendar is not a product of absolute truth, but of agreement, convenience, and sometimes political necessity. It was not correct, it was chosen. And what can be chosen can also be revised. This is yet another layer of reality that has been manipulated. If time itself can be rewritten, what else in our lives is not as unshakable as it seems? The truth is, almost everything. Our beliefs about what is possible, true, and real are constructs. They are not built into nature. They are built into us. And if we have the power to realize this, we also have the power to change the reality in which we live. This shift may have been gradual, caused by the influence of religion, power, and culture over the centuries. Or perhaps it was deliberate, a step away from ancient knowledge, from a lost connection with nature and the cosmos. In any case, recognizing this disconnect helps us understand how deeply it has penetrated our perception of reality, time, and the very concept of truth. But what is truth? It is not simply a set of facts. Truth can be challenging. It can call into question the very nature of the world we live in. Truth can force us to re-examine the history we have been taught, the traditions we have grown accustomed to, and the spiritual beliefs we have held to be unshakable. The philosopher Plato once described our world as a shadow, a projection of true reality, hidden from our senses. This is not just an ancient allegory, it is an archetype that recurs in the teachings of different cultures and religions. The Bible also speaks of a veil, an illusion that separates us from the divine, from true truth. Perhaps the world we live in is not reality, but a carefully constructed model, an illusion, a matrix designed to keep us ignorant of our true nature. Some texts in the Bible, if read without the filters of traditional interpretation, point to the existence of a great deception, a deception that has lasted for centuries. A deception that shapes our view of the world, our ideas about good, evil, time, power, and freedom. But who is behind it? These are not just institutions, not just states and religions. Although they have undoubtedly played their part, the real source of manipulation runs deeper. It is rooted in the very essence of human civilization, in the control of knowledge. Knowledge is power. And the greatest knowledge, the kind that truly liberates, has always been hidden. Hidden from the general public, guarded by orders, societies, elites. This control is evident even in the Bible itself, when you carefully study its historical versions. Texts capable of empowering individuals often ended up on the periphery, lost in translation, or deliberately distorted. One of the most striking aspects of the hidden Bible is its emphasis on free will, on the personal power of the individual. This power is not a gift from outside, but part of their essence. But for generations, these ideas have been suppressed, simplified, replaced by doctrines where the individual had to submit, not awaken. Underscore 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 underscore. If we truly live in a world built on illusion, then there is no point in seeking truth outside. It is already within. It waits for us to stop being spectators and become explorers. Not followers, but awakened participants in the creation of a new world. The question is, are we ready to wake up? There are hints that humanity has much more power than we have ever been told. These threads of ancient knowledge, scattered across different cultures, teachings, and even hidden messages in the Bible, point to one simple but revolutionary truth. The divine is not somewhere far away, it is within each of us. The real truth, which has been hidden or distorted for centuries, is that we are co-creators of our own reality. Our beliefs, thoughts, and intentions shape the world around us more powerfully and precisely than we are used to thinking. If you believe you are powerless, you will behave as if you are powerless. If you believe that reality is a fixed, unchanging structure, you will stop trying to change it. This is the essence of the great lie we have lived with for centuries. The belief that we are under the control of external forces, whether governments, deities, or fate. But there is another story, not written in the ink of official texts, but slipping between the lines, hidden, yet always close at hand. A story that whispers to us, the power has been with us from the very beginning. The only problem is that most people do not know how to use this power. We have been given fragments, scraps, rituals without understanding their essence. The Bible, a book that has been considered a source of spiritual truth for centuries, may in fact hold the keys to personal liberation. But these keys have been hidden under layers of translation, interpretation, and control. It tells us not about submission, but about awakening, about free will, about the inner power that is available to anyone who dares to seek it not outside, but within themselves. Take prayer, for example. What happens when a person prays? We often think of it as a plea to some higher power, but prayer is not a request, it is an act of attunement. It is a way of entering a special state, similar to deep meditation. At this moment, a person slows down the rhythm of their thoughts, calms their logic, and opens access to subtle levels of consciousness. But most importantly, they focus their intention. It is this intention, clothed in the energy of sincere faith and love, that can influence both the inner state and the outer world. When we turn to God, to the universe, or to something that seems higher than us, we are actually turning to the deepest part of ourselves. What we ask for, we ask of ourselves. And if our state is internally contradictory, if we feel like victims, if we are filled with fear, resentment, shame, our energy is scattered. our requests lose their power. True prayer is an act of agreement, not supplication. It is an acknowledgement. I already have everything I need. I am what I am looking for. The Creator does not need our approval, worship, or obedience. He/she/it is beyond these concepts. What we call God offers us not rules, but love. And this love is unconditional. It does not require rituals, fasting, or formulas. It simply is, and if we are able to feel it, accept it, and let it flow through us, we become its source. We begin to radiate light, transforming our lives and the lives of those around us. When we peel away these layers, cultural, religious, social, one by one, we begin to understand that many of the norms we follow were created by people who lived hundreds or thousands of years ago. Their decisions were often born out of a desire for power, control, and influence. Not out of love. Not out of truth. And we don't have to continue playing by these rules. Awakening is not always pleasant. It requires courage. It requires stepping outside our comfort zone, outside the old system we are used to. But once we free ourselves from social conditioning, we get a chance to connect with something greater, with truth, with the world, with ourselves. This connection brings a sense of deep meaning, harmony, and inner peace, which is often so lacking in our fragmented, noisy modern lives. Even though the truth has been hidden for centuries, intentionally or not, it has always lived within us. We carry a divine spark within us. This power is capable not only of transforming, but also of creating. Even if we are not fully aware of it, it waits for the moment to manifest itself. We are the creators of our own reality. And how we use this power depends only on us. Do not allow fear, doubt, or other people's ideas about the world to block your path to truth. Open your heart. Feel love. Allow yourself to become the architect of your own destiny. Remember, the reality you see around you is a reflection of your thoughts, feelings, and intentions. You can change it. You are capable of more than you think. Your divine power is waiting for you to reveal it. I would like to apologize in advance for any errors in the text or dubbing. I am just learning, and the language this channel is written in is not my native language. The dubbing is done using artificial intelligence. Please point out any errors so that I can correct them and improve the quality of the content. I would also be glad if you shared your thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments really motivates me to continue looking for new interesting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss new stories.